Okay, guess what, folks? It's 2 o'clock. We're at the Jeffersontown Library for Mid-Central Region, Division 8. Everybody's here for that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Call, yes, Fred.
I was looking for the garden club. Yeah.
Now, there's a little mix up here at the library today, so we might have some heads sticking in here. Once I find out it's strange, it'll be about garden railroading. It's the 14th. We're a week early. Seems like we were just here. I got a bad case of deja vu, but nonetheless. Let's talk about new members. I don't see any of these folks here. Mike is a member of the K&I Model Railroad Club. Dan, I'm not sure. He's not here today and he's not online. And Joe is a longtime attendee of the Division 8 Train Show and Sale. So welcome. And there's Stan. Stan had to take a call, important call. We have a couple of people who are new or not on a regular visit here, and I'd like to say hello to Rick Geertz. Rick Geertz is here today. He'll be at the show with his wares next Saturday over at table 3-1 and 3-2. Stop by and say hello to Rick and buy some of his fine 3D printed items. And we have a relatively new member. Eddie has been here before. Eddie Crow, why don't you stand up for a second? So he's sitting here all by himself. Nobody will pay any attention to him. Show Eddie some love. Oh, okay, good. Thank you, Karen. I saw Karen over there making you welcome. So say hello to Eddie. Learn about what he's up to and into. Make him feel welcome. So when I contact him in a year after he's dropped off a membership and what happened, Eddie? Well, nobody ever talked to me. Let's talk to our new members and talk to each other. Come and have fellowship. Visitors. Other than that, looks like a regular bunch. We don't have anybody new online, do we, Russ?
No, everybody's, I know everybody on there, so
Regular
we're all
people.
good.
Regular people. Good to know.
Some are irregular, but.
Okay. Not talking about that right now. Okay, let's talk about the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody want to hear the minutes or can we have a motion to accept as posted? Bob Johnson moved and Al Goodman seconded. Okay, all those in favor of not listening to the minutes? Not that they're not good, Rick, they're a great chance. If you haven't had a chance to read the minutes, there are various places, including on the website, take a read. Remember what it was like last month on the 21st of February. Treasurer's report, Mike.
Okay. All right, since last month, any questions? Okay.
You must have done good, Mike. All those in favor of accepting Mike's report? Oh, yeah, I need to have a motion first to accept the report. Mark, do we have a second? And David Mertz. Yeah, you too late. Thanks, Eric. You got to be quick, you know. You got to get your name in a minute. You got that, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Better not be. Good report, Mike. Thank you. And committee reports. And here's where we get to announce more about Ed Franconi.
Yeah, as I mentioned a couple moments ago, longtime K&I member also, Ed Franconia, passed away. Longtime illness, got him. Ed, probably not many of you all, if you're not a member of the K&I, ever had the pleasure to meet Ed. Ed was a very good guy, nice guy, really was. He's sorely missed at the K&I, but no other illnesses, etc., that I know of in the past month. So that's where we stand for member welfare for the month.
Thank you, Mike. As always, If you know of anybody who needs to hear from Mike regarding illness, hospitalization, or other, please let him know. Monthly contest, structures. Barry's not here today, as you may have noticed, but here's Barry Jr.
There you go. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, Barry's at Santa Fe convention. And normally Ms. Barbara would be up here doing this for Barry, but she's off at a retreat this weekend, so you got the third string. And I'll try and do this justice. So 12 entries. And Mr. Dawson and I were talking, going, so this is going to be half the pie card, which is a great thing that it is going to be. So we'll run through the honorable mentions. First of all, Bob Frankrone over here with his roundhouse and timetable. That is turntable that is totally full, which is awesome. If you've never seen this in person, it's even more impressive than the photographs. John Gillespie brought us a diner, which is a couple of repurposed cabooses. And then over here on the far right, Al Goodman, I thought you worked with water more than fire, but that's okay. Fire and smoke on the layout. And then Duke Green, a first-time entry by Duke. Yay, Duke. He's got this crane going on over there. Randy, you're here. Saw you somewhere. There, Randy brought us a concrete cylindrical grain silo. How tall is this thing actually? Because it's an S, right?
Yeah,
It's like this tall.
yeah, you probably never see it over there in that thing.
Yeah,
And then right next to him, Scott Griggs brought us some photos of this scratch-built S-scale deck truss bridge. And how wide is this?
About 5 feet.
About five feet.
Cool.
nice.
That's bigger than most modules, for crying out loud. Yeah. Awesome stuff. All right, I want you on the next one. All right, so Craig Hatter, our presenter today, Penn Central Yard Office. John Helton brought us Sammy's, which is kind of interesting. I love how he's done the interior with that. Russ, the Batavia Freight House, a repurposed model as well. And third place, Rudy Sandro with the K&I Model Railroad Club Union Station, a massively renovated Union Station from, you've probably seen that on the layout all the way back to Buckner, but greatly redone. Second place, Steve Lasher with First National Brickneck Building. And finally, Ed Brennan with his freight forwarder shed. So,
Wait a minute.
oh, what?
Wait a minute. Please notice. Long Cassidy on the fence there. One of my heroes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only reason he's there.
Thank you, Ed.
All right.
I love you,
Alan Cassidy and you have a lot in common. You're not aware of that probably, but I'll tell you about it.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
Can I continue now?
Yeah.
May I? Thank you. So we have a certificate for Ed, but I'm going to give this to Mike. Don't get up. I'm going to give this to Mike to present at a K&I meeting.
Okay,
Cool. All
you
right.
hear that, Ed?
I got you, Mike. Thank you.
You gotta show up at the meeting. Or I'm changing the name on the certificate.
You would. Okay.
What I started to do was print two of those, one as a prop, and I was going to say, well, if you don't show up for the meeting, we really have one. So, I won't do that after all. All right. So April is passenger cars. And that includes a drover's caboose because they held passengers. Okay, so just so if there's any questions about that. But a regular caboose is not a passenger car. Okay, got it? Question from the gallery.
Goose,
What about a goose?
passenger car, is it motor power?
Yes. Yes.
What about RDC?
What about an RDC?
What is it?
Same as a goose.
Passenger car?
Same as a goose. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
RDC more than that.
But if you enter that goose as a passenger car, you probably shouldn't also enter it as a locomotive. Make your decision. I'm just saying. Okay. So April is passenger cars. What's May? Cabooses. Cabooses, whatever. Okay. What's June? Open loads, absolutely. So if you look over on the show and tell, there's a couple structures, and I was a little ahead of the game. So there's an open load over there on a flat car. It's an intermittent flat car, and the load is 3D printed. Okay. And I've got the parts out there on a piece of cardboard. You can see how little it is to do that thing. Other than other than putting the parts together with essentially Eileen's. Okay. Don't get fancy. You don't need anything more fancy than just some Eileen's. Let it sit there and dry, and it will be fine, as you can see. A little bit of weathering on it, and that's about it. So that was printed on my home 3D printer. Okay. I did not design the file. Instead, I found it online, downloaded it, I can print it. The license that's with that says I can print it and give those files, give the print to anybody. I cannot sell it. That's the license that goes on with that. So if you're interested in making that, you've got 2 months to get it done. I have HO and I have N. Just see me when we go to the break. And I've got about 10 of these and about 6 of these. So if you want to build just like that and get a start, I would never enter it just like that. I'd put rigging on, cabling and so on and so forth to tie it down. But it would get you started, if nothing else. No excuse for saying, oh, I don't have anything to enter. All right, bylaws.
Yes.
Bylaws. So a couple of things we're going to change in the bylaws, or that we'd like to change the bylaws. If you just go to the next slide. There you go. Thank you. Bylaws are many, many pages long. So I'm just going to do a quick summary now. Last line down here, emails going out to all Division 8 members on Monday in lieu of a Monday train video email. And that email is going to have the bylaws in it so that you can review all the changes before we come back here in April and vote on them. As you can read by looking at the bullet points, there's nothing dramatic that's being changed. It really isn't. There are a few things going to be changed here and there. The first thing is we're going to fix up some of the grammar. It's nothing terribly wrong. Just, we should have said this a little different than that a little bit different. We're going to move some of the unnecessary language in there, just streamline a little bit. Remove some of the committees that just don't exist anymore. We used to have a librarian committee. We used to have a library committee, then a librarian. We don't have a library anymore. We got rid of all the stuff that was in it except the tools, and now we have a tool room. And Mike is the tool guy, okay? So we don't need the library listed in there anywhere. And there's a couple other like that. Change, this is probably the biggest change, is the commencement of terms for elected officers and trustees. There's a lot of history in there, and it doesn't matter what the history is, but it basically said that trustees would change at the May meeting and the officers would change at the spring Mid-Central Region Convention. And they usually coincided with our May meeting. Well, the convention this year is in June. And what if there's not a Mid-Central Region Convention in future years? And there may not be. Okay. What if that happens? So we just said, forget all that noise. We'll just make it that we change everything at our May meeting. And if there's not a May meeting for some reason, which would be weird, then we'll do it on the last day of May, no matter what. Cool. Those are the big changes. But when you get it on Monday, read through it. And then in April, we'll go ahead and vote on it and be done with it. Any questions? Cool. Great. I'm going to go away.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Mr. Weiss and programs and meetings, I'm not going to go back in the deck to the welcome new member slide, but Dan Harden came in. Dan, stand up and show your face. Dan is one of our new members. Listen, you got recognition at the beginning of the meeting as a new member, Dan, so welcome.
I apologize, it took me longer to get here than I thought.
Now you know where we are. Come back again soon. We'll be here next month. Russ, what's going on with programs and meetings?
Well, I'm going to tell you. How about a slide? Oh, there you go. Thanks, Ron. So today, our own Craig Hatter is going to talk about trees for the forest. But like I said last month, it has nothing to do with forest or trees. So you don't want to linger at the drinking fountain during the break because I think you'll find this very interesting. Next month,
Oh, boy.
darn right, old boy. Yours truly is going to give you a tour of the Layout's engine facility. And I think you'll find it interesting that a lot of the buildings there that if we that are Walther's buildings just change the signage and you'll find that they fit in very nice to any engine facility you may have. Plus, it's a wealth to do operations over there. So we'll explain how we do that too. So I hope you'll enjoy that. That's all I have, Ron. I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Russ. Oh,
And then,
next week is the Division 8 Train Show and Sale at Holy Family Parish. NMRA members can enter at 9 o'clock with your advance ticket. Have a chance to win a $50, if I didn't remind you before, a $50 Stanley Collection gift card, but you have to bring your ticket. Don't show your phone to the guy because he'll just take your phone. But you can download your ticket on the phone if you, maybe you have all the trains that you need. If you haven't signed up to volunteer, we need people to help the dealers unload at 7 a.m. Chance to get up early, get some coffee, do your good for the model railroading hobby. And we need some people after the show to quickly police up the area and turn it back over to Holy Family Parish. Who's coming to the show next week? Anybody? Who's not coming? Who's not coming? Who is not coming to the show? You're not coming?
Look at me.
Oh, you're gonna be there.
I am not.
You're gonna be there.
I have to keep her out of trouble or vice versa.
All right. Good. Well, we'll look for you all there. We will have the attendance list. Any questions about the show? Okay. And then it's time for my favorite part of the meeting. But before we completely disappear before the break, it's time for Back to Basics.
I guess that's me.
That's you. Frank.
That's me, yeah. We're going to continue on with what we talked about last month. And remember, there's a long string here of about half a dozen of these narrowing your focus to stretch your modeling dollar. Some of these are kind of a stretch to apply, but we're going to do it anyway, okay? So this time, last time, we talked about authenticity, time, location, and good enough. The good enough one is where it's really gonna make a lot of sense here with stretching your dollar. But this time we're going to talk about authenticity. How authentic does it have to be? I don't know. That's up to you. Three terms out there that are thrown around, and it's is your model railroad a prototype? Does it follow it explicitly? Is it a proto freelance, or is it just a freelance? Those terms are used kind of loosey-goosey sometimes. If you go back to the Tony Custer and Alan McClellan experience, it really focuses on the way you operate the railroad and the railroad that you are modeling. I think it's more than that, okay? But prototype, pretty much, it's as close as possible to the prototype. Rolling stock and locomotives, structure, scenery, operating procedures, you're doing it almost totally by the book. It's a challenge to do that. Sometimes it's easier to do that than a freelance railroad, though. Freelance, all the way on the other side. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a Disneyland railroad or that you're modeling a railroad on Mars, but not quite following the prototype. So you design, build, operate your fictional model railroad in your environment. So whatever rolling stock locomotives you want to use, mix, match, whatever, the structures are not following a prototype. The scenery is not one specific place in the world. Where is that? It's in my mind. Well, that's a pretty cool town. Where'd you come up with that idea? And that's the whole idea. You came up with that here, not by looking at maps, photos, and so forth. And then your operating procedures. You're not following any specific prototype. Then there's this in-betweeny thing, this hybrid approach to a plausible or believable self-created model railroad. And that's where sometimes this fails. But this is the hard part to me. You've got to come up with a story that makes sense. The same thing with the freelance. You got to come up with a story that makes sense. Because if I walk in there and you tell me it's 1980 and you got a Ford Escalade on there, it ain't 1980, okay? Okay, the only one that I'll go with is if you have a DeLorean on there with a flux capacitor. That goes anywhere. That goes anywhere, okay? Okay. Okay. So proto freelance. You come up with the rolling stock locomotives you want to use. And sometimes, a lot of time, the reason people do that is because they want to have a custom paint scheme. How about structures? Well, you know, I don't really want to follow the structures exactly that are in this area that I'm modeling. I kind of want to do something of my own because there really wasn't that building there, but I want to have that building because it's something in my family. Okay. White's Manufacturing, for example, okay, might not have been exactly where that was in Buffalo, but it's close enough. And we don't know any different, so we're going to go with that. Okay. How about scenery? Where you put your railroad. So you might be modeling the Southern Pacific in Alaska. Well, that never happened, but it's your proto freelance. You're following everything else for the Southern Pacific, but you decided you wanted to run in Alaska and interchange with the Alaskan Railroad. Cool. If that's your story and you can come up with a believable scenario, I'm okay with that. Okay. I'm okay with that. Then operating procedures, that's probably where we fudge the most, isn't it, Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So here's a question for you. Couple questions. Jack Burgess's Yosemite Valley Railroad. We've talked about it. You've read about it in the magazines. You've seen videos of it and so forth. Jack's is probably the most prototypical railroad I've ever seen. Okay. So if I go down that chart, he gets prototype in every category. Okay. The rolling stock, the locomotives, the structures, the scenery, operating practices. It is the closest I've ever seen anywhere. Some crews have sometimes complained during operating sessions going, you know, this is really goofy. Jack, if you did this, it would have made it a whole lot easier. And his answer is, that's not the way they did it that day, that year on the Yosemite Valley. He's using switch lists that the crews actually used on those days to replicate the railroad. There's not a piece of rolling stock. There's not a single locomotive on that railroad that wasn't on the Yosemite Valley that day. And oh, by the way, there are locomotives and there are cars on the railroad that didn't run that day. They never leave the yard. That you can't get much more prototypical than that. That's kind of on the extreme. I love Jack, but yeah. How about Russ's New York Central?
Didn't he have to scratch it?
Just no, yes and no. All the structures are scratch.
Yeah.
All the structures are a lot of the cars, but not all of them. And what's really interesting, Craig, is Jack bought a number of hoppers to move sand and gravel and so forth on the railroad because he believed, based on some research he'd done, that they were run on the Yosemite Valley. He later, 5-10 years after that, found out they were not. He sold them all. Oh, yeah, I mean, he was in that box, and we love him for that. What about Russ's New York Central layout? What do you think? Prototype, proto-freelance, or freelance? Proto-freelance, probably more than anything else. Rolling stock and locomotives, pretty darn close to the prototype. What do you think, Russell?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Is there anything on the layout that would not have been appropriate in your year in that area?
Well, I think you pointed out one time that there's a scenic cruiser bus over in Dunkirk that really came along about 57, but I like those, so it stays.
Yeah, so I said, and that, to me, that falls under scenery, okay? I'll just look the other way on that one, okay? But yeah, I did point that out. I also pointed out to him that he had round bales At the farm, like, dude, those didn't happen in the mid-50s. Sorry, no. And Russell did replace those, but that was a cheap replace, you know. Structures, kind of proto freelance, you know, kind of loosey-goosey on those, but that's okay. Does it give a good look? Does it give the flavor of New York Central in that area at that time? Absolutely. So pretty close, but not quite. Operating procedures, it depends upon the night. Is that not true, Russ?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, that's true. Yep. Yep. We just, for those of you who don't know, we just finished an operating session at Russ's this last week, and it was way not. And I was very happy because that means I got to come out and run trains instead of being in the closet as a dispatcher. So that was a good thing. How about Bob Weinheimer's Pennsylvania Southern layout? Oh, that's way proto freelance. That is way proto freelance. Yeah, I mean, just look at the paint scheme on the Pennsylvania Southern, you know, but it's believable. One of the reasons it's believable is because he has this whole story about the Pennsylvania Southern. And beyond that, the Pennsylvania Southern runs on a route that was surveyed by the Pennsylvania Railroad, but they never laid any track on it for a variety of reasons. Okay. In the April structures, whatever Bob wanted. And if you visited the railroad, he would give you a tour of it. And when you got into the Pittsburgh yard area, he would quickly say, if any of these structures have any resemblance to what you would find in Pittsburgh, it's pure coincidence. Okay. And that's fine. But he would tell you up front. The scenery, man, I tell you what, you know, Bob is an operator. He's not a scenery guy, but it's good enough. And when you look at the scenery he has in there, it looks like that area. It really does. Operating procedures, kind of proto freelance, but if you know how the Southern operated, it's probably 80% of the way the Southern operated. Okay, in the 80s. Why? Because Bob used to live in J-Town and he had a scanner on listening to the Southern all the time. And he would go out and talk to the crews. Back then, they would talk to you. Oh, yeah. Okay, they would, and threw stuff down at him and all this other stuff. Now, the sad news is that, and you'll see this in the pie card in April, a group of us went to Charleston, West Virginia, and started the takedown of Bob's layout. Sure. So the layout is still there. It's actually being disassembled and moved 30 miles west to someone else's house. And if that sounds crazy for a big layout, it started here in Louisville. It moved to Philadelphia and then to Charleston. So it'll survive a 30-minute drive probably. How about Fred and Barbara's Santa Cruz and Felton Railroad?
Yours is pretty pro.
Nah, it's proto freelance. There's not much in there. Rolling stock and locomotives. I could go both ways on this. And kind of like Bob's layout, Bob Weinheimer's. He wants you to walk in there and go, this is 1980s. When you walk into our layout, it's 1980s. Again, if it's a vehicle that was made after 1981, not on there. Now, that means because we're in the fall, I can have 1982 vehicles, right? Okay, I can have 1982. And I can have all the DeLoreans I want. Well, maybe one. Structures, yeah, they're going to be close, but they're not going to be exact. For those of you who've been to the layout, you know, in Watsonville, for example, we have a couple of structures over there that are for produce processing. If you look at pictures of the area, you go, yeah, those are pretty kind of sort of close. And they're just cardboard boxes right now. That's all they are, but they're kind of sort of close. Scenery, very close. Okay, we're going to cut down on the trees a little bit. If we model the redwoods to their full height, they'd be, you know, above the backdrop, but that's okay. And operating procedures, they're kind of sort of going to be proto freelance, but you know, whatever. So authenticity. So how's that work into narrowing your focus in your modeling dollars?
Believability.
Believability, which means if you narrow your focus to this is what I'm modeling and where I'm modeling, you don't buy all that stuff and have it all in boxes underneath the layout, or have a yard that's so full you have to have a train go out before you can have a train come in, and then you're like, oh, now it's full again.
That's a disease, multi-era dysfunction.
I like that. Let's see.
I used to have.
Multi-era.
Just 90% of us have that.
It's a diagnosis.
And you know what that spells? Med. That's right, it's meds. All right, that's enough. You want to take a break?
Let's take a break, Brad.
Take a 5-minute break, and then you're on.